Okay, so I guess this is us. So hello everyone. My name is Neven Marinovic, and I'm based in Belgrade, Serbia, where I represent Responsible Business Forum Serbia, which is a network of companies committed to sustainability and corporate social responsibility. So I would like to use this opportunity to thank also to our partners from CSR Europe, of which we are a proud member, for letting us take some space at this SDG summit and talk about a topic which is kind of quite close to our hearts, and which is, as you can see, the title about turning food losses into food donations. I would also like to thank our co-hosts and partners from the Croatian Council for Sustainable Development for also helping us to organize this session and for engaging themselves and their partners and stakeholders into making this section what we believe will be a quite interesting one. So without me talking too much, I would just first like to present our speakers today. So with me here today, we have Angela Frigo, the Secretary General of the Federation of Food Bank Associations, or FEBA. So she will explain why this acronym does not fit the full title. Then we have Andrea Radonic, the Public and Regulatory Affairs Manager from Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottle Company. Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottle is also one of the founding members of the Responsible Business Forum. Also, we have Kristina Klarić-Rupčić, Head of Corporate Communications at Dukat, a very big Croatian company, dairy producer, and she will talk also on behalf of the Croatian Council for Sustainable Development. And last but not least, Zoran Grozdanov, founder of Food Network in Croatia. Also, not with us, but also supporting us, we have Biljana Borzan, member of the European Parliament from Croatia, who is also very passionate about this topic and will, as she could not participate in this panel, she made a video message so that she can also endorse not only us, but also, the topic that we are advocating for. So, as you all know, the estimates for food waste are that more than 88 million tons are wasted every year. It has many negative impacts on both economy, society. It puts excessive pressure on many resources. But I'm not going to talk to you about that because there are experts today with me who know much more about it. What we want to discuss here and why do we want to talk about these things is to in a way to clarify and to a little bit more understand what are the European guidelines and some kind of national regulatory frameworks for companies. What could be and what is currently the role of intermediary organizations in food waste management, and what are the challenges of mainstreaming food donations in corporate decision making. I would also like to stress from our personal experience that we have done a lot in Serbia, thanks to the companies we work with and thanks to the other stakeholders. And, we have seen some way forward, that this is extremely also important for us in a way to connect to the European players, connect with actors in other countries, because thanks to the Coalition for Philanthropy, who is consisting of different organizations, including us, but also Trunk Foundation, Catalyst Foundation, Serbian Philanthropy Forum, and Divac Foundation, we have been able also to kind of start a dialogue with the government and to initiate some positive changes with this regard. So we are also personally invested in trying to look for solutions on how these things can be further developed and further pushed in the positive directions. So having said that, I think we can start with the video message from Biljana Borzan, as I mentioned, member of the European Parliament. I will also just be, before we do that, I'm sorry, just a few technical notes for the audience. You're not able to join us live, so you cannot participate in the event, but please do ask us questions in the chat, and feel free to put any comments or questions for our panelists. And yeah, I think that's about that. And I will also be shutting down my camera just to ensure that the internet is not overwhelmed, so and that we all can hear and talk to each other normally. So yeah, let's hear from video message from Ms. Borzan, please.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to talk about combating food waste in the EU. The Union, as one of the richest and the most prosperous communities in the world, has the moral and political obligation to reduce huge quantities of food wasted every year. Estimates show that 88 million tons of food are wasted in the EU every year. The production or disposal of EU food waste leads to the emission of 170 million tons of CO2 and consumes 261 million tons of resources. On the global level, there are differences in when and where food waste and food losses occur. In industrial countries, most wastage is concentrated at the final stages, namely distribution and consumption. Whereas in developing countries, it is concentrated at the early stages, owing to the lack of advanced agricultural practices, efficient transport system, and infrastructure and secure storage facilities. According to the estimates of the Fusions project, the sectors contributing the most to food waste in the EU are households with 53% and processing with 19%. Food service sector contributes with 12%, primary production with 10%, and whole retail with 5%. Food wastage happens along the entire food supply chain, and all actors have a responsibility to take measures to prevent and reduce the problem. The complexity of the problem calls for a coordinated policy response on the EU and member states level that takes into account policies regarding waste, food safety and information, but also aspects of economic, research and innovation, environment, agriculture, education and social policy. Currently, there are 52 EU acts that have a certain impact, positive or negative, on food waste. 29 regulations, 10 directives, 3 decisions, 10 communications, and 1 resolution. EU policy areas that they cover are agriculture, fisheries, taxation, consumer protection, environment, finances, economy, public health, industrial policy, and internal market. In the context of aiming to reduce food waste, the European Commission is looking at relevant legislation to see is it fit for purpose and identify if there are gaps, overlaps, or areas in need of a clarification or further action. Moreover, there is a clear need to improve citizens' understanding of food, food safety, and food waste and its causes. According to Eurobarometer survey done in 2015, 47% of Europeans understand the meaning of best before labeling, and 40% are aware of the meaning of use by. At the same time, nearly 6 in 10 Europeans state that they always check use by and best before labels when shopping and preparing meals, with very few indicated that they never do. These 2 findings confirm that the meaning of date marking found on food products is poorly understood, and that this confusion adds to food waste rates. Consumer education is a critical area where a concerted effort is needed to reduce food waste. According to Eurobarometer, consumers recognize that they themselves have a role to play in preventing food waste. Over 3/4 of Europeans think that the individual consumer is one of the actors involved in the prevention of food waste. Moreover, in existing legislation, there are further issues which may have a negative impact on levels of food waste. For example, the EU VAT directive provides that food donations are taxable and that tax exemptions on food donations are not allowed. To go around this, the Commission recommends that for tax purposes, the value of donated food close to the best before date or not fit for sale should be set fairly low, even close to zero. Some member states came up with legal ways to abandon donation taxation, but some, especially among the newer ones, have not. Croatia is a good example, as the government abolished the VAT on food donations in 2015. Economic and other incentives at member state level can be a strong signal to stakeholders to increase efforts in reducing food waste. Corporate tax incentives have demonstrated their effectiveness in encouraging food donations to food banks in countries like France and Spain. The questions about the liability of donors that arise from the general food law are an example of legal uncertainty. In principle, food donated in good faith and conforming to all the food safety and other laws should not land the donors into legal trouble. A form of Good Samaritan legislation at the EU level, while respecting the principle of subsidiarity, could lead to greater volumes of donated food. Such laws were passed in Italy by and have greatly contributed to food donation. With regards to this, it must be clear that food safety is a priority and food waste reduction measures must not compromise current standards of food safety. To reduce food waste, improve food safety as well as enhance the overall sustainability of food production, research and development have a highly important role in play in all sectors of the food supply and consumption chain. The development of innovative and environmentally friendly solutions should be encouraged and supported in areas including management of co- and byproducts of food production, food storage, digital technologies, and packaging. What is clear is that the European Union, member states, farmers, processors, packaging producers, transporters, retailers, food services, consumers, and all the other stakeholders have a responsibility to act. Experience has shown that spontaneous initiatives taken by stakeholders, be they voluntary or professional, to publicize or bring about an anti-waste culture have generally been successful wherever they have been carried out. The European Commission and the member states should promote successful practices of food waste reduction and resource conservation methods already used by stakeholders. However, effective action to reduce food waste requires a comprehensive rethink of how we produce, market, and consume food at each step in the food supply and consumption chain. This requires a common understanding of the issues at stake and close cooperation between all relevant stakeholders. There is food waste at every stage of the supply and consumption chain. That means that there is not a single silver bullet regulation that the EU can enforce that would solve the problem. We need a coordinated policy response at EU and member state level that takes into account policies regarding waste, food safety and information, but also aspects of economic, research and innovation, environment, agriculture, education and social policy. The scope of the problem of food waste is vast, and it is clear that the European Union, member states, farmers, processors, packaging producers, transporters, retailers, food services, consumers, and all the other stakeholders have a responsibility to act. Otherwise, the efforts will be partial and the results insufficient. Effective action to reduce food waste requires a comprehensive rethink of how we produce, market, and consume food at each step in food supply and consumption chain. This requires a common understanding of the issues at stake and close cooperation between all relevant stakeholders. Thank you, and I hope you have a productive discussion.
Okay, I think that was interesting. It's also definitely, I think, good and reassuring to hear that there is some kind of support and there are allies in the political institutions, especially in the European Parliament, which can enact laws that influence then, both other European member states, but also the countries in the neighborhood, such as ours. So I would now like to give the floor to Angela. So, how does this sound from your perspective? You are, or what you would describe, you are a network, of course, but of what we would call intermediary organizations. And I guess you have, been around for a while, so you have seen how this thing is evolving, both on the, I would say, on the political level, but also on the other side, on the side of corporates and other actors. So, if we can have a brief overview from your side regarding this topic and some of the issues mentioned by Ms. Borazan.
Yes, thank you very much, Neven, for your kind introduction. So, as you said, we have been working on this topic for quite a long period, and in fact, the European Food Banks Federation and the acronym FEBA that you mentioned at the beginning comes from our former name, Fédération Européenne des Banques Alimentaires. So our organization was established in 1986, so 35 years ago, and we are based in Brussels, and we represent a network of 430 food banks in 29 European countries, EU member states, but also non-EU member states. And our members daily recover and redistribute surplus food, which has lost its price for the market and would otherwise become food waste. But thanks to the activity of our members, this food returns to have a value and also social purpose, because it is redistributed to a network of charities assisting people in need in Europe. And just to give you some figures at European level, our members last year recovered and redistributed more than 700,000 tons of safe and edible surplus food. So coming from the food supply chain, and the food was redistributed to over 45,000 charities, helping 9.5 million deprived people in Europe. So I'm really honored for the invitation to take part in this panel within the European SDG Summit 2020. And I'm really looking forward to listening to the case studies from Croatia and Serbia, because one of the key actions of the European Food Banks Federation is to foster the relationship between food banks and corporations, companies, announcing the international and European aspect, but also at the same time enriching the link with the community in a global approach. So to date, hundreds of companies from multinational to medium small enterprises throughout the food supply chain daily collaborate with the food banks, with our members. And they can be global, European, national, or local companies. They can be food and drink manufacturers, distribution chains, supermarkets, but also companies belonging to the food service sector. So we work with the full supply chain. And these collaborations contribute not only to food security, but also to reducing the impact of food waste on the environment, and also to improving the sustainability of our food systems. So I think that one of the main innovation of the food banks, and also one of the core activities of our organization, is to bring together two parallel worlds, so the profit sector and the no-profit sector. And when we develop a partnership, a relationship with a company, with a food company, there is not only the purpose of donating surplus food, but in a real partnership perspective, through the donation of surplus food, we also try to foster activities such as corporate volunteering, economic donations, co-marketing campaigns, capacity building, but also exchange of expertise, so that in this way we can have shared goals and we can reach common objectives for the good of the company, of the no-profit sector, but also of community at large. So if I can just share with you some drivers that from our perspective can turn food losses into food donations and can also facilitate the development of these relationships with companies, especially in a period like the one that we are living due to the COVID-19. So a first driver is to have common definitions and also a measurement methodology, so that we can evaluate the impact of our actions and improve the donation process. As it was mentioned before, it's also important to have legislation both at European but also at national level. And the EU guidelines on food donations are really a key tool for us, because thanks to these guidelines, we have a clear interpretation of the regulatory framework at European level, and we can also foster food donation at national level. Another element which is extremely important is to consider the food donation as an investment and not only as a cost or a burden for the company. And in this way, we can also work on innovation. It is extremely important that the management of the company is committed to implement food donation. And it is also important to share and disseminate successful stories, good stories, so that we can share and communicate good examples that other companies can follow. And last but not least, as it was mentioned also by Mrs. Borzan, it is also important to have a multi-stakeholder collaboration with common objectives. So, the food banks, the food supply chain, but also public authorities at different levels, the network of charities. So it's possible to turn food losses into food donations only if we work together. And I think that the main challenge today, in a period where our members, food banks, are experiencing an increase in food demand of about 30% at European level, the challenge is to keep improving these relationships and also to increase the number of these collaborations so that we can have a beneficial solution for the companies, for the no-profit company sector. And in this way, we can bring value to food and also to rediscover the meaning of gift. So I thank you very much. And for any questions or comments, I'm at your complete disposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I'm sure we'll have some additional questions, Angela, from you, because you do have not only vast experience, but also have a great scope of understanding of what's going on in Europe and also beyond. So as we have mentioned a couple of times, one of the key aspects and players in this endeavor is, of course, the private sector and the companies. So I would now like to kind of hear more from that side. So first, from Andrea. Andrea, you're working for a let's say global or mainly European company, but also working outside of European Union. So I guess there is also some standards and efforts in various countries, and then are also, some, I would say, maybe even obstacles in some other countries. So, can we hear more from the experience of Coca-Cola Hellenic, and why is this important for you, and what are the efforts you're putting into ensuring that this is being solved in the optimal way?
Thank you, Neven. Yes, absolutely. Thank you actually for inviting us. As we are for a long time working together on this agenda when it comes to the food waste on the regulatory side, and discussion with the regulators on where we are and how we proceed. As we know from working as a big company outside how the things are working in the EU, and then we see a completely different situation when it comes to the Serbia. And I would like to refer a little bit on the Serbia and where we are today, and what are we debating somehow or trying to discuss. As in Serbia, we have no exact data on how much food is wasted, and instead of being thrown away, it is mainly destroyed, and it could be directed for the donations and to those who need it most. But unfortunately, as the law does not allow us, and as looking on the side of the company, it works very, very difficult to be over there. It is somehow estimated that in Serbia, it's approximately around 900 tons of the food is thrown away annually, which is really a big amount that we are discussing here. And on another side, we have the Republican Bureau of the Statistics, which showed that risk of the poverty rate in 2018 was approximately 24.4, while at the same time, approximately close to 500,000 people in Serbia cannot make basic living needs. So when we overlook at the overall situation in Serbia, in the last year, in the spring, on the initiative, we finally saw the initiative actually coming up not only from working with the food bank and working with you and working on the side of the companies. That coalition of giving for was made as a working group for improvement of the food surplus when it comes to the donations. And it was founded on the patronage of the Prime Minister as the Council of the Philanthropy. And the main goals were identified over there, that based on the analysis, the purpose was to make the regulation work, to make the changes, and provide actually eligible environment for the food surpluses and donations. The working group over there had different representatives from the ministries, companies, business sector, associations, and it was mainly from the Ministry of the Agriculture, Ministry of we had also the Ministry of Health that we will refer afterwards, and the Foundation of Anna and Vlada Divac on behalf on the Coalition of Giving. So the work, the main, after rediscussing and meeting regularly, we somehow saw that in the working group identified two main topics or immediate actions that has to be taken. One was related to the VAT on the food donation, and another one was in the definition of the donation of the food, which defined the deadline best before. When it comes to the food consumption, and it came at a very good time, because basically in France, when we saw that, when we go back on the 3 years ago, in the France, you saw that the retailers were giving away, the law came over there, the retailers could give away the food. In Serbia, introducing something like best before was really a new thing. It was not accepted at the first moment. We worked for a very long time in order to explain it. So we saw two main issues. One goes to the VAT, and we will go deeper into that, and then another one which was on referring to the best before. So when we go back on the VAT, we generally saw that again, referring to some of the analysis and some of the work done from the coalition, that the aim was to collect data on the food donation, and to basically go on the east sides to show how the analysis show us where we are when it comes to the VAT. So Based on the research that was done in different stakeholders in May and July 2020, the methodology actually that approach included the survey with companies, food industry, trade sector, with interviews with the different relevant stakeholders. And the first quantitative research, it was the first quantitative research done in Serbia in such a way, and showed that just over approximately 4.5 million euros was estimated in the volume for the food donations in Serbia. And on another side, the analysis shows that there is a room for increase in the food donation by adding approximately 1.4 million euros in case of abolishing VAT on food donation. So we have the companies are lacking that in a sense that, yes, there is a will, there is a willingness to cooperate, but the regulatory side makes it just much more difficult when it comes to the food donation overall. So in this sense, when we go, analysis show that the revenues collected from the VAT on donated food are lower actually than the social benefits from abolishing the obligatory to pay the VAT on food donations. So it's just a few times higher than the estimated financial benefit. So now it's just a sense of that estimated increase in the food donation is approximately 30% due to the abolishing obligation of the paying the VAT, which can provide approximately 1.2 million additional meals to the soap kitchens. So it's really big numbers that, in a sense, the philanthropic groups itself understand, but it's very difficult to lobby and to discuss when it comes on the working groups, when it comes to different ministries are actually putting into it on the regulatory base. So going back, it's a comparative legal analysis, show that in one side we have in EU countries, which is approximately 20 of the 20 EU countries that we already heard in the before discussion, actually were in the abolishing of the obligation to pay the tax on the donated food in the EU countries, and then on another side, on the non-EU countries, we're on a completely different level, and basically the need for such an approach is very, very high in the country itself. So now the biggest hope, we have a completely new government, and even today when we discuss, we have a new positioning. So we hope that the new government that we just have been formed is in a way of harmonizing the EU practices, and we really hope that we will go towards this directive. As a group member and somebody who is really promoting this initiative, we will be striving towards explaining also how much companies on the side are losing by destroying the food. And it is really a waste. I mean, it is for me unacceptable as a person, and basically also talking on the sides of the company. So we will continue this discussion and really hope that there is going to be a voice for and the area to talk when it comes on this side. And just mentioned, we talked about the salary issue when it comes to the best before. I must say that we saw very good progress when it comes in there. Finally, this was accepted as a wording, I would rather say, when it comes at least on the side of the Ministry of Agriculture. Now we're a little bit striving, talking to the Ministry of Health to explain what would it mean for the Serbian citizens. I think that there is a big road to go, because it's a campaigning on explaining to the people that do not understand this side, that this food is not bad food, and that there is nothing to, there's no reasoning, it just has an expiry date which can be used. So it's a campaigning. It's campaigning on the side of the citizens, it's campaigning on the side of the regulatory, of the government stakeholders to understand. And just by giving the practices, as we saw in the France, Belgium, in defining the food, I hope that we will manage this. But I must say that all the support needed will be from all the aspects in order to be able to present something like this on our side.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I mean, the case study of Serbia, I guess it's interesting because we are at a, how I would say, different level of maturity when it comes to various legislations and efforts. But some of the key takes that I got from you is that one of the key issues is about multi-stakeholder approach, and is about different people, sitting and working together, because it's not enough to have the government or to have only private sector pushing things, but you need to have civil society, government sitting together. The other thing is, as I see, is about data and analysis, because not until the scope of the problem and the scale of the problem, and how much, both from the cost effectiveness side, but also the health and sustainability and other things. So I think these are some of the lessons learned also, that can be then transported to other, I would say, stakeholders and players, that how to tackle this problem. And the only thing I'm not sure I fully agree with you is that we have a, as you said, completely new government, because both the prime minister and majority of ministers are the same. So it's a, let's say, the new mandate of the semi old government, but still, it's let's call it a new beginning, and hopefully.
No, you're right. It's my mistake. I'd rather say that we're just waiting to see who is going to be in the working groups, and I assume that maybe from some other ministries we will be having the jumps in and jumps out. So this is why I say we're just looking forward to see where we are, but discussion is started, and it's just the way to continue it in the way as we are. So,
okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So when it comes to the case of Croatia, as I said, we have Kristina Klarić-Rupčić, who would speak on behalf of, as Andrea has been speaking on behalf of Responsible Business Forum and Coca-Cola, and explaining us the whole situation of companies engaging in the dialogue in Serbia. I think Kristina can speak also on behalf of Dukat and the Croatian Council for Sustainable Development about the developments in the country. And I would also just like to say that we already started receiving some questions. I think we can get to them later, but so don't be discouraged to ask them, because we are aware of those, and would be able to take them once we hear from all of the speakers. So if you can share your experiences, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. On behalf of Dukat Dairy Industry, I would like to thank the organizers, Responsible Business Forum Serbia and Croatian Council for Sustainable Development, for the opportunity to participate at this panel and to present Dukat's practice of food donation. I have prepared a presentation that I would like to share with you. Just a second. I hope you see it. So how did everything start? As a CSR company, Dukat has been actively involved in activities contributing to the improvement of quality of life and the development of the society as a whole for many years. These activities include donation of milk and dairy products to especially endangered groups of people, for example, citizens affected by floods, adults and children who live in poverty, etc. This is why we have occasionally donated our products to humanitarian associations, children's homes, and other organizations. However, we have noticed that we lack a systematic way of donating our products. On the other hand, as a traditional donor of milk and dairy products and the biggest food companies in Croatia, Dukat had to respond to the increasing number of social supermarkets all over Croatia, especially in the eastern part. So in January 2050, Dukat decided to launch a systematic program of donations of dairy products to humanitarian organizations. It was a logical step for the biggest dairy producer in the country and a socially responsible company to contribute to the community by donating its products to poor citizens. Dukat decided to donate products with a short shelf life that could not be placed on the market, but are safe from a food safety perspective. These are the products that have not even left our central warehouse in Zagreb and Split due to a bad sales plan or an error in the packaging or in the label, etc. We started with a regular donation first to Croatian soap kitchens, and soon we expanded the donations to social supermarkets and other humanitarian organizations all over Croatia. Donations were delivered by our trucks to the majority of donation recipients, usually twice a week. A small number of donation recipients have their own transport and can pick up the donation by themselves. But that has changed since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, because we have restricted the entry of all visitors into the factory circle. From March this year, we deliver donations to all donation recipients. Some 15 employees from 3 different departments participate in the process. One employee is in charge of coordinating donations internally, part-time. This includes communication with donation recipients and with the logistics and the transport departments, as well as with the accounting, as detailed and demanding administration is conducted. Last year, we donated 145 tons of dairy products. Through our regular donations program, we provided more than 43,000 children and adults who live in poverty with dairy products, and we ensure almost 800,000 dairy meals. In the last 5 years, Dukat has donated 1,045 tons of dairy products in total, with a sales value of 15 million kuna, which is 2 million euros. Annually, Dukat donates an average of 200 tons of milk and dairy products. On the next few slides, this was a slide I was talking about earlier. So on the next few slides, you can see what and to whom we donated to the most in 2019, as well as where the most of our intermediaries organizations are situated. The data is very similar for other years. Since the implementation of the ordinance on condition, criteria, and methods for donating food, so-called law on donations, in November 2015, Dukat has not changed its practice of regular donations of dairy product established almost a year earlier. What has changed is that we donate our products mostly to intermediaries in the food donation chain, respectively, associations and organizations registered with the Ministry of Agriculture. Since 2015, the number of intermediaries we donated food to has increased from about 15 in 2050 to 60 in 2020. Today, Dukat regularly donates its product to 60 social supermarkets, soap kitchens, and humanitarian organizations, intermediaries in the donation process. This means that today we deliver our donations to 60 delivery locations. I have to mention that we deliver our donation as part of our standard routes. That means that we drive these products in our trucks along with products for stores, restaurants, schools, hospitals, etc. And that is our advantage over other donors, because not only that we give donations, we also ensure the delivery of products in the cold chain. This means that most of dairy products have to be stored and delivered under refrigerations. 4 to 8 Celsius degrees. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the earthquake that hit Zagreb, we have introduced extraordinary donations in the period from the end of March to mid-September. This resulted in a significant increase in donations in the first 3 quarters of 2020. From January to September this year, we have donated a total of 242 tons, which is 140% more than in the same period last year. So how do we contribute to SDGs with our donations? With our donations, we contribute to the fight against hunger and the consequences of poverty, thus contributing to the achievement of SDG 2, zero hunger. We also contribute to the better quality nutrition of the socially endangered population and their quality of life in general, thus contributing to the achievement of SDG 3, good, healthy and well-being for people. And at the same time, with our donations, we reduce the quantity of discarded products. So, along with the positive social and humanitarian impact, the project also generated a positive environmental impact, thus contributing to the SDG 12, the third target under this goal. Calls for cutting in half per capita food waste at the retail and consumer level and reducing food losses along production and supplier chains. And let's move on to what challenges and opportunities have we faced during the implementation of our donation process. So, although so-called law on donation on food donations, because it's in Croatia, it's an ordinance, it's not the law. So although the ordinance on food donations have created the necessary framework for greater involvement of companies in donating food, we have faced an increased volume of administrative work, not to mention additional work in our accounting team, because each donation is followed by a signed delivery note, and reports on donations are submitted to the tax administration every month. So, how we solve that? We have appointed a person responsible for coordinating donations, meaning for contacting donation recipients, for coordinating deliveries, taking care of huge amounts of paperwork, and a donation database. And that person, my colleague, Snezhana, she does that half of her working time, but she does it with heart. However, although we highlight our own delivery as an advantage over other donors, and so do many donation recipients, we must mention that occasionally we have delivery issues with the delivery capacity, because sometimes we don't have room in the trucks for donated goods, and we have to check it in advance with our colleagues from the logistics departments. A positive effect of the ordinance on food donation is the fact that we have organized our donation process internally in great detail, and since 2015 we track all our donations, both in quantity and value, as well as by product category, production side, donation recipients, region, etc. Another positive thing about the implementation of the law on food donation is that we are making some savings through donations, other than the fact that we are saving on VAT, because you know that VAT in Croatia is VAT on food donation is deducted, and we don't have to pay it for food donations. We are also making savings on reduced costs for food disposal, which is, for example, 1 million kuna over the last 5 years. We have reduced the amount of products that are thrown away on this way by 5 to 10% per year. Instead, they are being donated to citizens in need. And finally, Dukat's leadership role in food donation in Croatia was recognized by the public, more precisely by a member of the European Parliament, Ms. Biljana Borzan, and Food Network Croatia, Zoran Grozdanov, 2 years in a row. So Dukat is a proud holder of 2 The Best Donor Awards, as the largest single donor of food in Croatia in 2017 and 2018, and as the largest food donor in the category of producers. And we hope that we will receive this award for our donations in 2019 as well. So that would be all. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
I will be happy to answer all your questions in the question and answer section.
Thank you so much. So I would just, before we move to Zoran, I would also like to say that, and something for all of you to think about, Camila has posted a question, but I think she already got a lot of answers, both from our participants, but also from speakers. But if any of you would like to add, so the question was around, do you have any suggestions on how to tackle already packaged food waste, such as sandwiches and salads? Camille is located in Netherlands and looking for solutions to avoid food waste at companies' own restaurant facilities. So I'm really glad we are already working in this spirit of cooperation and dialogue that both Milana, as I can see, Željko and Angela provided some answers, I hope useful ones, but also just a question for all of you to think about that. And as I said, last but not least, so Zoran Grozdanov, the founder of Food Network. So we heard, Zoran, that you're able to provide some awards, especially to Dukat. But we'd like to hear more about from the position of an intermediate organization, and from the position of somebody who is also working on which both Christina and Andrea have mentioned, raising awareness as a very important, I would say, part of this endeavor. On how have you been supporting this endeavor in Croatia? So Zoran, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I will be shorter because I see that we are running out of time. So I will try to.
As always with these things, it's. I hear some noise in the background. So if some of the speakers has not muted themselves, please do so. So yeah, thank you. Okay, Zoran, please.
Okay, at the beginning, I will just try to connect to what Christina was saying, because as a representative of Dukat, I have to say that Dukat is the example of a company that recognized that to donate food is not only about making good legal frameworks, but it's about social responsibility, since they started that before the legal framework was even created in Croatia. And that's something that we are now trying to provide or to raise consciousness. But before that, I will just say a few words how we started, what we did in Croatia, and what are the future challenges. So at 2015, 2 of us, me and my friend Mladen Tadej, started the national campaign where we advocated to abandon, so that the government should abandon VAT on food donations. We were not professionals in that area, in the sense that we never advocated anything. We didn't have any idea on the all complex laws and the opportunities for abandoning VAT, but we just had a view on the social supermarkets where we had volunteered, and we saw that those shelves are empty, and we said this is not right. And one of the reasons why is that happening is VAT on food donations. So we started basically out of the blue with the clear demand that we want VAT to be abandoned. We had luck, double luck, I would say, that we started that campaign in the year when elections were in Croatia, which is always good to have a campaign on that time. And the second is that we have, without our intention received a huge public attention and media attention for our efforts. So basically, 5 days or 7 days after we stood in public with a clear demand, we had a call from the Ministry of Agriculture, which we were hoping to get after 7 months of our work. To make long story short, in that year, so we started at February 2015, at November 2015, the VAT was abandoned, and also there was a regulative there was a working group with Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Finance, Croatian Chamber of Economics, and some NGOs. Many were participating at that, and we had a regulation on food donations, which were for the time good, basically, because they regulated what kind of food can be donated. That also the dates for the donations of the food were also regulated, which we strongly fought for, which is the topic we can also discuss, because we insisted that the poor, the needy received the donated food within the deadlines, not after the deadlines. So after that, we saw that the VAT is not enough. Although we had that year, because this campaign received a huge public attention, and there were many media shows and so on, where the Croatian Chamber of Economics and many food producers and so on were participating. They all said we would donate more if there was no VAT. When we managed to remove VAT, food donations didn't decrease so much. So basically, from the perspective of 5 years, I would say that removing VAT was really crucial. Raising awareness is really crucial, but basically, what I said at the beginning, that social responsibility is the key. Croatian government did much in these 5 years. For instance, they brought up a national program for reducing food waste and for increasing food donations. In that program, that has 10 points, 7 of those 10 points were the result of our advocacy work, and that program has a final goal of forming the food bank. But I will speak shortly about those problems about the food bank. So basically, what we heard, and it was interesting to hear from Belgrade experience, like we are speaking with the Ministry of Finance whether VAT will damage the budget, state budget, and so on. I think that the key is like the social responsibility of the government. I think the key is that is a political, not economic decision. Okay, economical decision. That is a political decision that we want food donations to be increased. We don't want poor people to not having food and so on. So that is political decision. And some experiences from the Western countries are also can show us that you can have many benefits for the donors, for the food producers, and so on. But at the end, some countries are penalizing food donors if they don't donate food. So I don't think that only good regulative will increase food donations. I think that good regulative plus the social awareness of the donors, which is in our Balkan countries, is on a very low level. I have to say it, like examples like Dukat and maybe few others are really small numbers about that awareness. So what we did and what's going on now in Croatia, Food Network is running with Ministry of Agriculture one IT platform, internet platform which wants to help food donors in the process of food donations. In which sense, like you had a practical problem that food donor wants to donate to somebody, he has to call many social supermarkets and so on, and maybe that food donation never succeeds. We invented, I would say, an IT platform where food donor just reports the food that that the firm wants to donate, and we as a manager of that IT platform are redirecting that food to the social supermarket. That's not enough, of course, but it's one tool that is helping. And so that tool will be one of the key elements in the future food bank. And I have to say, in Croatia, that past 2.5 years, government really did much. I think they did too much. I think that the job of IT system and food bank is not the business of the state. They have to support it, but they cannot fund it. They can fund it, but not found it. And the problem in Croatia, and I believe in Serbia also, is undercapacitated and underdeveloped NGO sector, who would take the huge job of food bank or coordinating the whole process of food donation. So basically in Croatia now we have a problem of small consciousness of social consciousness of the donors. For instance, in regulative you can, Christina, please correct me if I'm wrong, you can donate up without VAT up to 2% of your yearly income, okay? And according to our estimations, 2% of the yearly income for the food producers and the huge malls is around 200 million euros, if not more. And for instance, last year, per year, and for instance, last year we had the food donations reported 1.5 million euros. So basically there is a huge way to go for raising consciousness. Also, some regulative could be changed, but I think that we have a good basis. Plus, we have to build an NGO sector who will be able one day to take over the coordination of food donations, whether it will be called food banks or not. So basically, that's in short what we did and what we see as a possible problems. I think that the biggest not the problem, but I would say the opportunity and the chance is the coordination between NGO sector and business sector, okay, for the one. And second, how to raise awareness with business sector that it's a political decision on the part of the state to remove VAT. It's also, I would say, political decision of food producers and the huge malls that they will donate. Of course, they will have some economic interest maybe in that. Christina was saying about some of the numbers where they saved, they have people employed just to do food donations and so on. But basically, that's a political decision. If Dukat could, before the legislation, start to donate the food, so that was their political decision, basically. And I think that we have to raise awareness with donors. I don't think that we will succeed that, but that's our next step. So we had a huge advocacy campaign for 4 years towards the state. State really did much. Now our advocacy is turning on to the food donors to raise their awareness. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zoran. I think you have, in a really nice way, summed up, some of the, I would say, key takes from this, so saving me, the effort to do that because that was in a way my job. But I would just kind of, with your kind permission, would kind of just like to repeat some of those. I think, first of all, thank you all for your participation. And also, I think we have around 50 attendees, as I've been informed. So I think, thank you also for, listening to us. Hopefully it was interesting. And I think some of the key findings that I heard from, our speakers here today, regardless of the country, but, we wanted to kind of course, highlight some of the examples from the countries where we mainly work. But it's it's that you need to build the infrastructure, and this infrastructure needs to be there everywhere. So it's not enough to just pass the law or or advocate regarding to the companies so that they can give or donate a lot of food, but if you don't know what to do with it, and is it an IT infrastructure, is it whatever you want to call it or do it, but there needs to be also infrastructure on the side of the users and NGOs and everybody else. Then there should be a clear so to put it, division of labor, because it shouldn't be like that we say, well, this is a big problem, and then the government takes over and they start doing everything, because that's not a point. I think every one of us has a role to play. And I think building capacity is learning, coordination, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of us has a lot of awareness raising to do, and for countries, on many different levels, both when it comes to decision makers, companies, but also general public. So with that, and without risking that we are being cut out very abruptly from this, I would like to thank you all, and also to invite you to further discuss. My colleague Milica has put our email here, and please, let's stay in touch, and because this is a topic we will definitely still continue pursuing. So thanks again to everybody, and good luck, and hope to talk to you soon. Hopefully, in some kind of physical environment where we actually get to meet each other face to face. Take care. Bye-bye.